Okay, BC Rice, I'm just going to show you how I tested out to try and solve your problem. So what I did is I went into Poser, this is 2012, and I loaded a figure here. It was the Ben figure, so I loaded it. I don't use Poser a whole lot, so I run into issues here when I was testing it, so I won't look for these textures. So basically I just created a very simple animation, moved the timeline, selected the foot, went like this, moved the foot back, went like this, moved this foot, went like this, and moved the foot back. So if I go back to the beginning and run it, it's a very simple animation. So I think let's run this through here. The last keyframe is 14 or 15. So we'll say 14. So I would make sure, I learned this along the way, that this Ben Casual is selected. And I go to here and I go to the Pose tab. And if I go to the People, and I select this one here and I add the pose, and I will call this Ben Pose 45. Say OK, OK. Make sure it's a multi-frame. Say OK. And I think that should be fine for this here. And if I go here, there is the pose, which is fine. And I will do one other thing here. Ben Pose 45, I will copy this, Control C, to another folder. This is another test here, so we'll go like this, Control V. So there it is there. I would open up next Carrara. Close, File, New, and I would open up the Content tab, find this figure here, wherever Ben is, double click. So I loaded him up, say turn off limits. I was doing it the way 3D Age would do it first, I think, here. So I select this here, zero out the pose or the figure, zero the figure, and then I would collapse this and go to the poses section, the people, and you're saying you have these poses in, where did I put it, Ben Pose. So this should be Ben Pose 45. So if I zoom in on this character here, and if I double click this, turn off limits, and if I scrub it, the animation is loaded. So if you go scroll down here, you see the keyframes. And what 3D Age suggested was once this is selected, you go to the NLA clip, create master clip, and we'll call this clip test 3D Age, and we'll use the keyframes range, and we'll select Ben Casual and say OK. And this is now in there. If you scrub it, nothing happens because we erased all the keyframes. We drop it in here, and you play it, and it plays fine, and it's the right timing too. If you zoom in here, 13, it's pretty close. I guess it went the last, it was 13 or 14 in Poser, so it's the right timing anyways. So that is that way to do it. So let's select this. We gotta click this here. We will delete this guy here and delete this guy here, say OK, and we will zero this guy. Whoops, we got to go like this. Zero this guy out again. Okay, the other way to do it, I guess, is loading it from. This is the first way I did it. I selected the bend figure, and then I went to the Generals tab, and then I went to the Import, and then I used Pose as Clip, and I think it's this one here. Yes, I would have loaded it from a separate folder, so it's the Bend Pose 45, and say OK. Whoops, I got to select it, then say Open, turn off limits, and nothing happened here, but you said you go to the clip here and you would drag the clip into here, and then if you played it, you said it only was the first couple frames, which is what it is, or seems to be. But then what I suggested doing was you basically hover on this here, expand it to the 13 or 14, or the length of your what you did in Poser. Then you double click this here, and I suggested scaling or zooming way out using the zoom tool. Okay, so here's, you zoom as far out as you possibly can, and you find the last bunch of keyframes. So that looks like it's here, and it's like 192 frames long. So there's something going on there. I don't know exactly what. So you basically select all these keyframes like this, and you find the longest one, which is this one here, and you zoom it or scale it way back this way. We zoom in, scale it back to the 14 or 13 or whatever it was. Then we go back up to the top and we finish editing. And if we go back and then we run it, the whole animation is there. And then what you can do, you can stop this. What you have to do is right click this and then copy, right click again and paste, and make sure you have the pasted version, which will now be here. And then you can delete the pose number 45, because if you drag this one back on, it's going to be the messed up version again. So delete that, and you can delete this, say OK, and then we should be left with the 46, which is what we are. So then you can reuse this guy and wherever you want. Whoops. It should have worked. Copy, paste. That's 47. So if we go back and you run the animation, it goes through twice. Let's see what it does when we run through here. It works, you just have to rescale the actual clip. Okay, so that is that version. I guess the only other option I could show is if I delete this, delete this, delete this. Let's try this again, make sure it works. So you drag it on, it's small, you make sure it's there. Let's go back to the beginning. Yeah, so it works. Okay, so we'll delete this. The other way to do it would be to go like this. I have to add this other folder. Let's go like this. I'm in the Content tab. Add folder. Choose Desktop. And find it. I named it this BC Rice after you. So we'll go and we will add. So now it should be in. Whoops. I'm knocking something over on my desk here. It should be at the bottom or somewhere in here. Oh, mic desktop. Not good. Anyways, there's the pose there. So if it's on here, then you just double click this here. Make sure I'm selecting the right. I have that selected, and you just double click this here, which should be the pose 45. It is. Double click. Turn off limits. Go back and run the animation. Okay, let's see what's going on, why it's so slow. Let's try something else here. Let's get rid of this character here and add the figure again. Maybe things are getting messed up because of what I have done. People. Turn off limits. Okay, we will zero the figure, animation, zero figure, and go to mic desktop, selected, so we will double click, turn off limits. Okay, yeah, so that works. I had keyframes messing things up. So that works fine. If you go up to here, this should be Ben 45 somewhere. Or no, actually the keyframes get loaded in here. So you would zoom in here, and then you would select the figure the same way 3D Age suggested by going to the NLA clip, creating the master pose like I did at the beginning. So hopefully this helps show you what I did. If not, oh well. See you later.